Hey, Dave, Dan, John, Sue, Chris, Dan.
Hello, all.
So are Dan and Chris up in Goshen or down in Belleville or wherever you live?
Dan's kitchen, isn't it? Behind him?
We can't hear you, you're muted. We didn't hear anything you said, Dan, you're on mute. There's Megan.
Hey, everybody, how are you?
Good.
Morning.
Okay, now I'm live and in person.
Now we can hear you.
I'll take it off when I get inside. No, I'm gonna keep it on.
So are you
No,
south?
this is my kitchen in Plainfield.
Okay.
No, she's chasing the dog.
Have we heard from Sylvia and Dan about, are they back from Nova Scotia, I assume?
They were actually here last week in attendance.
Oh,
And
I couldn't tell.
Dan has gone back to Iowa, and Sylvia hopes to join us either in person or in Zoom, but she had some family members at the house today for breakfast, and plus the McConaughey's, who are the new superintendents, so she said she might join via Zoom.
Good, good.
Good morning, Stan.
Good morning.
Miss Taylor, it's a diva. She just.
I have to go get my other glasses. I do this every time.
See what's on her shirt.
I feel like he's. I mean, and I can't tell that to my doctor because the last time I did, she wanted me to go sit.
Dan?
You all right?
Good enough.
Good.
I talked to Kristen yesterday and found out she's a rock star.
Hey,
How's that?
She, of course, is still out in Long Island, and her hotel reservation is now through the end of October. But the CEO of the company came out to see how this operation was going. And when he came into finance, where money is dispersed, he started asking a bunch of questions, and she had all the answers. And she had met him a time or two before, but he recognizes her and calls her by name. And after he left, he called Kristen's boss, Arif, and said, "That Kristen Berger is a rock star." Doing everything just right. Things are running smoothly, and she had all the right answers.
Great.
do you think there's any way she could siphon any of that money to our little meeting, or?
Well, after the first week, she was just thrilled with all the money they gave out. She was only off by $10. She shorted some tow truck driver $10.
We could borrow a truck from somebody in an old junk car and haul out there.
Well, she did say of all the ones they had impounded, somebody stole one.
Oh my,
And I said, "Well, how does that happen?" She says, "Well, a lot of them are still runnable, drivable if you're brave enough to have one, but all the VIN numbers have been blacklisted by insurance companies. So even if you salvaged one, nobody's going to insure it because it's been underwater."
Ooh.
Anybody that would steal a car like that's probably not worrying about insuring it anyway.
I'm thinking probably not. But she says, "Yeah, we've got $100,000 cars sitting out here in the line that have been written off by the insurance companies."
How's the harvest going, Steve?
We hope to start tomorrow. We've had 3.5 inches of rain this past week and things are still a little soggy, but
I would think.
yes.
Wow. What are you harvesting?
we'll start out harvesting soybeans
Uh-huh.
on the good days and field corn on the cloudy days.
How much?
Can I ask how I didn't get around to giving, and I'm very sorry, but how far off are we of the goal of having the amount of money that you need every month to meet the obligations?
We're doing fine.
Not
That
that
doesn't
we-
mean I shouldn't give, though, I know.
People have been very generous, even during our time of meeting on Zoom. I think people have been very, very generous with the meeting.
I found it really helpful to have a PayPal account too, because when it automatically comes out of your account, it gets here more regularly than when I have to write a check.
Yeah, I just changed banks, so I was looking at that. I've got to do that for my Wealthy Friends meeting donation too.
If you like to give that way, it's on the website. That's how I do it now.
Me too.
I like to tell the bank and then they do it without me even ever knowing.
Yeah.
I'm like a lizard, high efficiency, right?
Some of Sylvia's siblings were here. This wasn't what I was expecting. She wasn't either. Oh, okay. Yeah, somebody said, I started to say somebody said brothers, but they made some siblings and I heard brothers.
I said siblings.
The brothers were expected to
Sylvia and Patrice are here now.
Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be seen.
Hi, Brother Dave.
Hi, Dale. And Sue.
Oh, Nancy Jean earlier.
Good morning.
Gotta talk loud
Hi, Dan Berger and Chris. Yeah.
towards the owl. Speak towards the
Yeah,
owl.
I'm talking to the screen.
Talk to me.
Talk to the owl.
Well, I
Not
thought
to
of you
worry,
this week.
you're audible, Sylvia.
What?
You're audible.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Teacher voice.
Yeah.
I thought of you this week, Sylvia, when I opened a jar of tomato juice that you had canned last year when I was unable to.
Good.
That's this afternoon's process. This year I froze them as they were ripening and now I can process them into juice.
Was it a good year for tomatoes here?
Sort of. They came on and bloomed early and made tomatoes and then they stopped blooming for a while. At least mine did.
Yeah. Laura's still got some
Yeah, I do too.
coming on.
They're not ripening near as fast as they did 2
No.
weeks ago, though.
Since we cultivated the garden and planted grass, we didn't have any tomatoes, except for the ones that are growing in the flower garden where we pitched out the scraps. Open peppers grew from the compost. bin.
Is that what we call casual compost?
Yeah.
Well, Lynn has a prelude for us, so we'll listen to that and then we'll do joys and concerns. Thank you, Lynn. One of my joys after hearing that is remembering when I was pastor at Muncie Friends. We had the Earl College Chorale come for an afternoon of sacred music. And if you've never been to Muncie meeting, it has wonderful acoustics in the meeting room. And the chorale lined the edges of the meeting room and sang that a cappella. And it was just, we were just overflowed with sound sitting there. It was wonderful. Are there other joys or concerns to share?
Well, it's certainly been a joy to host the McConaughey's and also the other visitors from my family who stopped by on their way from Kentucky to Kansas. It's just been a real treat to get to know Sean and Katrina, and I'm so hopeful for their presence in our yearly meeting, their leadership, and they're so capable, both of them. And just being together with the yearly meeting people yesterday was wonderful.
Get results of your test early in the week.
I'm sorry?
About your test.
Oh, yes. When I'd given up all hope of hearing last week, I got a rather cryptic message from my nephrologist, which I often do, and then I have to write and get his nurse to clarify what he means. It just said, test is back, shows this. It was all medicalese, I didn't understand any of it. So the nurse goes, he says, you're showing some signs of having had diabetes in your kidneys for 25 years. And, but it's still early onset. So they've got to figure out why the numbers have decreased in my kidney function. And my cardiologist read the numbers and he wrote back and goes, I think you had some medication issues earlier in the year and that skewed your numbers. You probably did need a biopsy. So it's as good as it could be. So once they get the anemia fixed, I'll be fine. Well, I'll be me. So thanks for the.
Remember Nancy Miller Gray?
Yep.
Her husband, Robin, died on Friday.
Wow. I know that he had run a marathon in March. He was that healthy then.
Yeah.
After.
Came on very quickly.
Yeah.
Camera out of the sunshine.
Way for me to see Patrice this morning and Sylvia again from last week and this week.
Thank you.
It's always fun.
Get it. Just gets back to you.
She had surgery this week for a couple of issues and they were able one issue without the other one. And Wanda's discouraged and unable to do much. Elizabeth had with her.
Well, if you could, put yourselves on mute and we'll go into silence. And Lynn is the worship leader this morning. We'll hold these prayers in our hearts and lift them to God. It has been a real joy to me in the last few months to learn that you all like to listen to me play the piano during meeting for worship. I have, as you know, taken my share of, or tried to take my share of leadership times for meeting for worship, but I am not a preacher and I do not feel called to do that. And I struggle every time it's my turn to be in charge of meeting for worship. But I can play the piano and I love to hear the hymns I grew up with too. So you may be getting a lot of that in the future as I take my turn. I don't know, we'll see what God has in mind. But as I was thinking about meeting for worship this morning, and what I try to do is come up with a theme and then pick hymns that go with whatever that theme might be. So I was searching for the theme for this morning, and the idea that kept coming back to me has been healing. As we know from just listening to our prayers and our joys and concerns this morning, we know a number of people who need healing in one way or another. And we don't have to look at our world very hard to see that there's lots of need for healing out there too. Our relationship with our planet, our relationships with each other, nation to nation, or person to person. There's all kinds of opportunities for God's healing in the world. So I'm going to go over to the piano in a little bit, and I hope that as you listen to the music flow over you, you'll feel peace and healing in any of the places that you particularly need to feel those. Before I go over to the piano, though, I want to read the original words to the hymn that I played as a prelude. It is a familiar tune, but maybe the words are not as familiar as some other ones. These are the original words, and I really like them, so here they are. The title, of course, is How Can I Keep From Singing? My life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the sweet, though far-off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It finds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though my joys and comforts die, the Lord my Savior liveth. What though the darkness gather round, songs in the night he giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that refuge clinging. Since Christ is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the clouds grow thin. I see the blue above it. And day by day this pathway smooths, since first I learned to love it. The peace of Christ makes fresh my heart, a fountain ever springing. All things are mine, since I am his. How can I keep from singing?
when Lynn first started to play There Is a Balm in Gilead, that took me right back to a choral arrangement that our choir did years ago with Betty Fields conducting. And I appreciated the piece then, and I still appreciate that piece. And it makes me think that sometimes when we're in the middle of something and it's happening right then, we don't appreciate it as much as when we reflect on it later, maybe years later. And so that's kind of the way I feel about that piece, and have over the years. It's been special because of the people who were singing and playing the piano and directing. And it brings to mind the idea that we need to look to those things that we can appreciate right now in the people who are right around us. And always remember to say thank you for the little things that happen and little things that people do for us.
I went there too. The people surrounding me in the choir, like Sam McCain, who sang on his tiptoes and bounced, and Walter Barnett, and Dave Mills, and Sylvia Mills, and the Chitwoods, and how those people, by just singing what Betty suggested that they sing that Sunday, how they shaped who I am. And the people who grew up with me have that same light.
We'll now transition from semi-programmed to unprogrammed worship, and friends are welcome, of course, to stay, but we know some need to depart. So blessings on you who need to leave, and let's continue our worship in silence. I've been wondering a bit if God is ever surprised in good ways about how we collectively and individually live out God's will. I was told after the biopsy that I wasn't supposed to do anything for a week, including anything that had bouncy activities, which had a whole list of things that I never planned to do in the first place, especially play tennis. But I did ask about mowing the grass, and the doctor said, no, that's a big no-no for 10 days. All right, so I just was gonna let it grow, but while I was behaving yesterday and just relaxing and watching golf, I heard a lawnmower, and I looked out, and it was my grandson-in-law, Josh, and he's mowing our yard on his new mower that he bought. And at first, I looked and I thought, well, that's not how I would do that. And then I just sat back and thought, hey, I don't have to do it. What a nice feeling. It looks fine, looks good even. It's didn't do it the way I do it, but I was just grateful. And I wondered, like I said, if God ever looks and says, you know, this needs done, and I need you all to do it, and begins to think, well, that's not exactly what I had in mind, but that's creative. You did it a whole new way, and you were faithful and helpful. So when Josh was all done, you know, I sent him a text, because that's how they communicate nowadays. It seems like everything's text. And his comment was, well, I know it's probably not like you would have done it. But if you need anything else or done again before you're allowed to, just holler. And I thought, I will. And I think when God needs things done, he's probably less concerned than I am about did he do it right, then he did it. I mean, there are even Bible stories about that. You know, the one who said, well, I'll do it, but doesn't do it, but the one who says, no, I'm not going to do it, but then goes and does it. So it was just another growth step for me, and I hope I think about that the next time I hear God's voice, is just do it instead of worrying about it. We're about at the time of our appointed closing. Are there any thoughts that friends would like to share before we say goodbye? Thank you, Lynn, for the message and music. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
It's good to see you, Megan. I missed you last week on screen.
Thank you. I don't know what happened. My morning became discombobulated somehow.
Gee, that never happens to me.
I don't know, whenever I show up, you're already there, so can't be that bad.
Well, it's good to see everyone, and hopefully we will see you next week. And next Sunday, we'll also start our series in Sunday school on women in the Bible. So I think we'll start with
Hagar, one of my favorites.
one of Chip's favorites. So we'll see how much Chip knows about Hagar. So that'll be at 10:45.
Oh.
So, link. So, well,
Good
bless.
Berlin.
I'm sorry, Sue. Okay, take care.
Enjoyed your music, Lynn.
Oh, thank you. I always compare myself unfavorably to Eunice Ferguson, and and that's a real struggle for me. But I finally